Dobojo, Dejokli Neshnabe Noswin, Tisha Zentai Kandejnikas, Shawnee, Oklahoma, and Dochvia, Oklahoma City, Adayan, Nakoan Dodem, Nishnabe Endow, Shushubeni, and Dibendagwitz. Hello, my name is Tisha Zentek. I am originally from Shawnee, but I live in Oklahoma City. My family is Bear Clan, and I'm a citizen of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, which is where I serve as education director. But I'm also the current president of OC and the co-chair of the Oklahoma Indian Student Honor Society. And so I'm really happy to welcome all of you to this Q&A session. This is something we've been wanting to do for a few years and are really excited to do this year. So this is intended to be just kind of an informal Q&A session. We're going to give you some information, but if at any time you have questions, you'll put those in the chat. We'll make sure we address them. And then as soon as we go through some general information, we'll have plenty of time for open Q&A. So if you're new to Oklahoma Indian Student Honor Society or the scholarships, or you've been nominating folks for a long time and are super familiar, we hope you have an opportunity to learn something new and or ask us questions or give us feedback. I'm joined today by several other folks from OC and folks who work with us on the Oklahoma Indian Student Honor Society. So if you all would like to, if you're in a place where you can, folks from OC Honor Society, if you want to just do a quick introduction of who you are and what's your affiliation with OC, we'll start there.
Hi, I'm Tiara Fudge Roberts. I am the Northwest representative for the Oklahoma Council for Indian Education. I'm also the chairperson for the Title VI and the El Reno JOM Parent Committee chairperson.
Hi, I'm Cricket Roads Connie Wordy, and I'm the Southwest representative on OC, and I'm the Indian Education Director at Western Heights.
Thanks, Jay. Songo, Leslie Montemere, Joe Jeff Goodos, Musko Ogi. Hello, how are you? My name is Leslie Montemere. I am Muskogee. I am the current OC parliamentarian, and on my career side, I am the Epic Charter Schools Native American Programs Coordinator.
So look at my list here. Aaron, I think you just joined. We were just doing quick OC introductions of our affiliation of OC and our professional roles.
Okay, can you hear me? My name is Erin Parker, and I am one of the Northeast representatives for OC. I work for Tulsa Public Schools Indian Education Program as the lead resource advisor. And I'm enrolled absentee Shawnee, but I am also Kiowa, Cherokee, and Kickapoo. That's it.
But, and then let's see, we've got Kim Coe and Charles Lee, who are also joining us, who work with me at the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, but have also been serving on the Oklahoma Indian Student Honor Society committee this year. So again, welcome. What I thought might be helpful to start with is to go through an Honor Society application just briefly so that you all can see what that looks like and what that process is. If you're not familiar with it or choose, we can go through it that way. And then from there, Leslie is going to go through our frequently asked questions so that we can focus on those. Of course, at any time, please utilize the chat function. And if my fellow OC folks can let me know if I don't see it when a question pops up, we can address it at that point. I know not everyone might be able to stay the entire. I have a burning question before we get to that part. Please jump in with that. We want this to be as useful to all of you as possible. So I am going to share my screen and talk a little bit about Honor Society. Okay. So I've been working on this committee now for I think 3 years now. And we've done a lot as a board and on this committee to hopefully improve the process. Technology has been a challenge, but I think we've learned a lot each year that we've gone to the online application, and I think it's just getting better and better. But if your nominator has been with us for a while, your feedback has been what's driven our progress here. So Oklahoma Indian Student Honor Society has been going on for a really long time, just been in different forms. It was a paper process for a really long time. So I'm here at our oklahoma-oc.org. That's our main website here. And so what we're talking about today is the Oklahoma Indian Student Honor Society and the 3 scholarships that OC grants. So I'm going to start by going to Oklahoma Indian Student Honor Society. Applications are now open. Our deadline is February 17th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Central Time. So we are accepting applications now and have had several, but that's until February 7th. So when you click here to register, the first thing that you see is an option whether you are a school or tribal representative who will be nominating several students or 1 or more students, or if you're a self-nominating student or parent. So I'm going to select the nominating 1 or more because that's typically what school representatives are contending with. Sorry. Try that again. I clicked this. They save and continue. You are able to save and continue, which is a good feature. I'll click the next button. There we go. Okay. So you select who you're nominating on behalf of. Let's say it's school. I'm going to have to do some autofill here to make it quickly. But really, we're asking for just some information about you as a nominator so that we can group your students together. We have added this year a list of school districts. So if you start to type in your district, it should pop up here. And then we are asking if your school has multiple sites. So, Erin mentioned she's from Tulsa Public Schools. There are several different sites. When we're preparing the gifts after students have been selected for Honor Society, it really helps us to know which site the student is coming from so that we can make sure that the gift gets to them and the certificate gets to them in a timely manner. So, for example, on the Shawnee, let's say why students are at Jim Thorpe, the student as a Jim Thorpe Academy. There's the phone number, and then this is important, the school mailing address. This is where we'll mail the certificates and cords. So if you're a large district, you may have a central place that you want everything to be mailed. That's not where your office is housed, but that's where we need to know where you want the certificates and gifts for the students to be mailed, not your physical address. Okay. So that's kind of the shell part of your nomination. And then you go to the add student option. And that's what you would do for all of this. So it's kind of connected to that general information, and then you can add as many students as you'd like. So it's asking for student's name, email, grade level. This program is open for high school and college students up until graduate students. This is the Honor Society is. Scholarships are only for high school and undergrad. You'd select there. Again, you're kind of answering the same information like you did before. Using that, say you're from OKCPS, you might be nominating on behalf of several students who are at different sites. So you're filling that information out for each individual student here. And then it's already auto-filling that information from what you put before. So if that's the same for all of your students are nominating, you're not having to fill it in again, but you can change it if it is different for each student. You have that opportunity to. For tribal affiliation, we have a list here. It's the list of all of the federally recognized tribes, but you can, should be able to type in there and it'll pull up. And then we do need a tribal affiliation card or form for the students or documentation. That could be a Title VI form. That could be a tribal ID or CDID card or a letter certifying enrollment from Indian Education Director. If it is a letter coming from the Indian Education Director, we do need the tribal affiliation for each student. You could bullet list, like I'm an Indian Ed Director for this school. Here are these students, I'm certifying them. But you need to make sure that you include their tribal affiliations for all of them, because we do keep that data and we can to us and say, how many Choctaw students did I have this year? Something along those lines, and we want to be able to answer that for them. So then you can attach that that documentation. Then we ask for the student's grade point average. It's really important to note that this honor society requires a 3.9 grade point average or higher. That can be weighted or unweighted, but it cannot be rounded. So if they have a 3.8999999, they will not be selected for honor society. It must be a 3.9 weighted or unweighted grade point average. So because there is a fee that's associated with this, I think that's really important to note. We don't, if you know already that their grade point average is not going to qualify them, then it's probably not worth submitting the application. And it is set up here. If I put a 3.9 and I try to go to submit, it stops you there. So we're trying really hard to make sure people are aware of that up front. But then we do verify that with a student transcript. Attach something here. I did want to note here on both of these forms, it does list the accepted file types, but it does note here that .heic file types will not be accepted. I did not know what that was until last year when we were reviewing, but I think it is when you submit via telephone. I believe what I looked at, I think it's something to do with an iPhone. So just make sure you check what type of file type it is. The reason being, when we were reviewing, we could not open the .heic file type. It could have been the correct information, but because we can't open it, we weren't able to verify that. So just verify the JPEG, any of these are fine. If you're having issues, if you let us know before the deadline, we're happy to try to help troubleshoot that with you, but that was something we learned last year. And then from there, it's we do require, this honor society is exciting because it's for Indigenous students who are high achieving, but it's also for Indigenous students who are participating in their community and in leadership. So we do ask, and we're going to talk about this FAQ, so there's some information here that will help, but on service leadership, you can select any of these. So let's say the student you're nominating is so this is 150 max characters. We're not asking for a dissertation, but we just want to know a little bit. When you say sports, what does that mean? Just a little bit of information so that our reviewers kind of have an idea. We do ask activities or events within the past year. So that's not, when I was in 3rd grade, I saw a drum group, or I was captain of the academic bowl team, and 7 years ago. It is from the last year. And you can select as many of these as you want, but you do have to provide that short description. So you need at least one here to be able to move forward. And then you can move on to the Indian cultural activities. It's the same concept here. We've listed all of the ones we've listed here are pre-vetted. But if there is an other option if what your student has participated is not listed here. So let's say, for example, they attended a story like that at school during Native American Heritage Month. Again, it could be really short like that. Doesn't have to be even a complete sentence. It's just a little bit to know, hey, you said storytelling activity. What was it? Kind of like maybe how you might list it on a resume. they need to select at least one from here or the other. But they could do as many as they want. If you were to select another, see it pops up that box there. And then click submit. Let me see, what did I miss here? Oh, I did a docx. Let me do. There we go. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. For the transcript, you would not be able to submit a Word document. It would need to be something that's uneditable. So I just selected something kind of random to show. All right. So now I'm clicking submit. It goes through and you can see here that it has that student listed. And you could add another student as many times as you wanted to. So if you're doing 30 students, you could do it that way. And then from there, once you have all the students listed here, you select this next button, and then you'll see a summary of what you've worked. So here in the blue is the nominator information, and then you'll see down here the student information. And I really encourage you to look through that and make sure it's correct, particularly the forms. Sometimes we've had nominators who've submitted maybe the transcript twice by accident, just a mistake. But if we don't have that information, we're dealing with over 1,000 applicants and volunteer reviewers. We don't have time after the deadline to go back, let you know that that was incorrect. So we do have to be aware of that. You do not need a picture of the student. We talked about that for a slide showing we did not, it is not in the application list here.
Tasia, I think we had mentioned it for scholarship recipients to highlight those award winners, but we never, I think, officially put it in there.
Yeah, that is a great point. I think that is something we will want, and I just don't think it made it in the applications here. But I'll make a note of that for next year. Every application for Honor Society costs $15. So you will see that totaled here. So right now I'm just with this test one doing one student, so it's just 15, but it would multiply that for you for as many students as you select. That fee pays for the certificate costs. It pays for the gift costs that we give each student, and it pays for the shipping if we're not able to deliver those to the students. It also helps us pay for our technology that allows us for these forms. And because this is student data, they're very sensitive to making sure that this is secure. That's why we're not just using a Google form or something like that. You're paying through this website, you are sending valuable information to this website. So we contract with an external IT person. And so that price is not, OC is not making money off of that. This is everything that is made through Honor Society goes back into Honor Society for those things, and whatever is left over goes to scholarships. And we still fundraise on top of that for the scholarships.
There's a question in chat that says, can you correct any of these options once they are submitted?
Oh, great point. So say you're at this point right now and you're like, oops, I auto-filled something or that form is wrong. You can you can select this previous button right here and you can edit it at this point. So I click edit. It pops right back up and you can change that. After you've done the full submit, so I'm going to go to the next option just so I can show you what this looks like. So we're gonna in this way, yes, I've checked this is all correct. And it's going to ask you how you're paying. Credit card, you can pay that way, or you can select purchase order to be sent later. If you have the purchase order, great. If you don't, that's okay. It's the options there or the upload the file, but those are not required because you recognize you may not have that at the moment. Once you click submit, there is not a way for you to go back and change that. But if it's before the deadline and you notify us, we will, as you know, as much as time as our time allows with our volunteer board, go back and check that for you and update as needed. It just needs to be before that deadline because we want to be fair and consistent to all of the folks who apply. So I had a student actually reach out to me yesterday who said, my nominator submitted, I think it's correct, but you know, I just want to be sure because they're new. And so of course, I'm happy to go in there and look, make sure the forms look okay, and give them time if we're, you know, we still have a few weeks before the deadline. So if there is an issue, there's time to correct it. After the deadline, there, you know, we kind of cut that off and need to move forward. So once you click submit, then it always knows when you're watching. You'll get a congratulations, you've submitted. We have an email address here that you can use as for any questions or like, hey, you know, I have an issue here. And I think I probably that'll work. It should pop up here in a bit with the confirmation. I know that will go through, but let me just take it up here. So you should get a confirmation email. And that confirmation email will have attached that summary record that you could use as an invoice. So a lot of schools will say, this shows the record of who I submitted and how much it was. That works for an invoice for me. Some schools need something a little bit different, and we do our best to provide that, but yeah. Yes, thank you, Erin. So say at Tulsa Public Schools, if you wanted to create an Indian education list saying, I've already vetted these folks, they're Indian out of my program, I've got their information, and I'm nominating 30 students. You can create a letter that says, you know, I am so-and-so from whatever school. I have the documentation for all of these students. Here are their names and their tribal affiliation. I would say those are the two things that are required, but it is also nice to have a grade on there. We should be able to see that from their transcript, but just in case, just so that our data is correct, because those are the kinds of things that we can correct on the back end, just so if they're not listed as a senior, but they are a senior, we want to make sure that they receive our turquoise honor boards, and we'll only know to get that for them if they are listed in the system as a senior. So some of our bigger schools choose to do that list like that and submit that same list for all of the students they're nominating, whereas some it's just as easy to have a tribal ID. I mean, we try to be as accommodating as possible. We know that you all work very hard. All right, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment here so that I can see you all and see if there are any other questions about Honor Society before we talk about scholarships. Freshmen who have received high school credits while in middle school. Is it shown on their transcript? Yes. I would say if it figures into their transcript, whatever, we're going to look at whatever their cumulative GPA is on their transcript. So if it's figured there, then we would take it that way. Are there any other questions? If a student is graduating early. Oh, that's a really great point. Thank you, Erin. That's not been something I think our committee has encountered or thought about. So Erin's saying that she has a student in 11th grade who's graduating early. In that case, I would say go ahead and put them as the 11th. I probably actually would put them as 12th grade. My worry is if you tell us, you know, we have so many people who volunteer to help us in their packing packages, and really that 12th grade is what triggers us to know that they receive an honor cord, and their certificate or other information does not list their grade. So really, their information will not show that it's listed as 12th grade, but it will trigger us to know that they need that additional gift. Letters of intent to go with their application. Nope, they do not. If they're going to do a scholarship, there is a small essay with that. But nope, for the General Honor Society, which again is for high school students, undergraduate students, and graduate students, it is just what you all saw me go through. Any other questions? If you think of any, please jump in. Before I go over scholarships, Leslie, I think I'm going to hand it over to you for the FAQ because most of the FAQ focuses on Honor Society. So since we're on that topic, we'll go through that. And I think I covered some of the topics, but do you want to share your screen and go through it that way? I'm going to turn it over to.
I can do that. And if you did go over any topics, because I had to step out and answer a phone call real quickly, just let me know and I can skip over those. So we have created this frequently asked question listing from previous responses and feedback from nominators, students, and families. So we definitely try to hit on any specific situations that your students might encounter. But if there's not anything answered in this, please let us know so we can add to it. In years past, we did provide this as a link on our website. We just weren't able to go through it and to make sure we address everything and get it on the website in a timely manner. So it is available. If you would like a copy of it afterwards, please email us and we can send that to you. So contacting about any questions with the application, what qualifies, what doesn't qualify, email oc@oklahoma-oc.org. And this is very important because within our board of volunteers, we have scheduled times that someone maintains that email account. Whereas if you're messaging on Facebook or you're reaching out to individual members that you know are on the board, we just don't want to take up their family time or their professional time. So we try to have, like I said, that scheduled time where we maintain those responses, and then we're making sure that everything is addressed as well. We don't want any concerns or problems to go unanswered. So any questions or anything you're not sure of, please go to us at oc@oklahoma-oc.org first. And as it says at the very bottom, if you don't hear from us within 2 calendar days, not business days, please let us know so that we can make sure we're reaching out to the correct people for your problem, depending on what it pertains to. Okay, so I think, Tasia, you already went over the documents needed, but there it is again, on what that entails. And one of the biggest things I know a lot of districts, I guess, benefit from is the letter that we accept. Just make sure that, as she said, that you list all their tribes with the student names, because as she already said, we do have a lot of tribes that want to know how many of their citizens applied or qualified for Honor Society. Again, in detail for what constitutes as tribal enrollment. She's already hit on the 3.9, and then that's not rounded up. I'm trying to think. Oh, so I did have someone ask, because they had a student who was a junior that was taking concurrent classes with their high school classes, and they wanted to know if their concurrent class GPA counted as or was added into their high school GPA, and that is not. That is a separate GPA. So we're looking at the high school transcript, not concurrent transcript. She's talked about the cultural activity, and as she's already said, we list several just to give you an idea. And there's always the other option as long as they want to go into detail or explain what that means. For example, we've had students in past list enrichment programs that the tribe offers, such as Choctaw Star or Toxali with a Chickasaw. If you mention those things, please just put a sentence in there explaining what it is, because some of our reviewers are not aware of those programs and what those entail. So just give a brief 1 or 2 sentence if you're naming one of those specific programs, just so our reviewers understand what that means.
And let me jump in really quickly, Leslie. I want to, when you'll notice, like when it lists Johnson O'Malley, see where it says that there. Johnson O'Malley cultural activity. So our reviewers would not accept it if they just said, I'm part of Johnson O'Malley, or I'm part of Title VI. You know, that's kind of a benefit they're receiving. But like our Johnson O'Malley here at the Citizen Potawatomi Nation does drum making, does beating, does cultural activities. So that's kind of why we ask for that extra information to find out, is the student just receiving a benefit from that program, or are they actually participating in something culturally? And if you're not sure whether that counts or not, please ask us, and we're happy to, but we've tried to give as many examples as possible, but just Title VI or JOM being a part of those programs without information about a cultural activity would not suffice.
Thank you, Tasia. With our next topic, asking about virtual cultural activities. This was a really big component during COVID protocols, and we definitely wanted to extend that because we were aware that a lot of our students are outside of their tribal communities, or they do not have access to that within their proximity. So any cultural activities that they conduct virtually, we just ask that they explain on that within their statement or the description. It doesn't have to be a paragraph or more, just giving us an idea of what the activity entailed and what the student took away from the activity. So we just know that they had an impressionable engagement activity. Sorry, I was trying to read ahead. One of the things that comes up under this is we know that a lot of tribes offer virtual language classes, and that definitely would be one that constitutes a cultural activity. She's went over the process of nominating more than one student at once. And we do have several districts that piece that up. So they may do batches of 10, submit that, do another batch of 10, and just whatever works best for your needs. Students can self-nominate, parents can self-nominate. We've even had a few communities that nominate students within their neighborhood. So it's just whatever works best for that situation. Tasia, did you already go over the purchase order process?
I did, but I want to note here about can a student self-nominate but have the school pay the fee? Absolutely. And so I know like McAllister used to say, just select that option and then let us know that. So McAllister used to say the Indian Ed coordinator would not submit for all the students. They would have the students nominate on themselves, on their own behalf, and then pay for it with the PO. Say, okay, you've nominated. You've given me proof, I'm going to add you to my purchase order. So that's completely fine. You just need to make sure the student knows to select I'm paying by purchase order, and then look that on the back end, but that's completely an option.
And one thing to suggest on our end, just so we can get you an invoice in a timely manner, if you are a nominator and that is the situation to where you're having students self-nominate, if you can get us a list of your students who nominated towards the end of our session, then that way we can be ready to give you an invoice for all the students that are included. That was one thing that delayed that process last year, is we weren't exactly sure how many students who self-nominated were getting paid by a school. Okay, so the credit card option, and just so you're aware, if you have any parents or families who are concerned, that is a secure payment option. That is not something that we have available to get your credit card information. That goes through that secure website that we use on that platform. And if for some reason, we did have an instance in the past where a person was charged more than the $15 fee, please let us know as soon as possible so that we can make sure that those funds get refunded. We were able to fix it in a timely manner, but we definitely don't want anyone paying more than what was already communicated. So the reason Tasia went into such lengths to explain the requirements is because we do have.
Oh, okay. And then this is what it's supposed to look like. Okay.
Okay. All right. Is if you do happen to nominate a student and we look and they don't qualify because of the GPA, we are not able to refund that money. So that's why it's very important that you look at that before nominating any students. Some other things that people have not been accepted for that weren't based on merits or achievements, it was the lack of documentation. So please make sure that you do provide that tribal documentation and or the school letter with their transcript. We did have some issues where the format that they sent the documentation, we were not able to open on our end. We tried to reach out to the nominator and the student to get those documents in a timely manner, and that was not provided. So those are just some of the instances that not based on merit, but they were not accepted and we're not able to do a refund for those. So the student notifying process, Tasia, do you want to hit on that a little bit? I can't remember at the end if it was going to nominators or the students or both.
It should go to both. We've got kind of a new process this year. So that is, the nominators will for sure be notified. The hope is that students will be too, but it's a new process. So I truly hope so, but yeah, that is the intention. I did not note, and I should have, I noticed it here, but there is a purchase order processing fee. So if you did not notice that, that is $25 that is automatically added on there. It's just one fee for the entire purchase order. And the reason is because, you know, we have to go ahead and order our gift and our certificates ahead of time before some of those purchase order comes in. We need we need some money to help us until that funding comes in. So there is no additional fee for credit cards, but for purchase orders, there is that $25 fee for the entire purchase order, however many students is on it.
All right, thank you, Tasia. So we do try to make sure once our reviewers have gone through all the applications, if there are any that were not accepted for any reason, they do get more than one look. So a reviewer who we have trained may flag a student as not being eligible or denied, then they get 2 more looks by an OC board member. So don't think if for some reason you have a student that was not accepted that it's just the one person. There is at least 3 different people who are looking at the application to make sure we didn't miss something. But there are some of the reasons listed of why a student may be denied, but we will notify all nominators and or students the same day of acceptance. We try to include a general reason of why a student may be denied so that they can work on that for next year. But if you for some reason have any students that you're not sure of, or you want a specific reason, you can email us at oc@oklahoma-oc.org and we can provide that specific reason, but we are not able to provide that in a mass message for those students who are not eligible. But again, just some of the things that we have seen in the past that does not allow a student to be accepted is, first of all, the GPA. Second of all, usually the documentation. For example, some nominators accidentally uploaded the same document for instance, 2 transcripts instead of a transcript and a tribal documentation. So just make sure you have both. And then one of the other things on the student end is they don't explain an activity that they marked as other. So they may mark other in the cultural activity, but they didn't explain anything about what that meant. Unfortunately, because one of the major components within our honor society is the cultural engagement. If they don't explain that or let us know, we are unable to deem that as acceptable. So make sure that your students are putting in at least a statement. It doesn't have to be a paragraph, just something explaining what that other is. Okay, and then the other thing, some students in past years have listed for the service leadership community or the cultural engagement, things that they did in elementary school. And so they're a junior or a senior and they haven't listed anything since 5th grade. Their involvement in any of these categories does need to be recent. So within the past school year, at least. And Tasia, did you want to add anything on that part?
No, I'll just say, you know, we try to be as transparent as possible about the criteria. So our reviewers really, you know, we're trying to remove as much subjectivity as possible. If they have the GPA, if they have listed at least one leadership activity with a description, at least one cultural activity with a description from the last year, if they're documenting the tribal affiliation documentation is there, then they're approved. So hopefully there's not a mystery. It's not we like this person, we don't like this person. We take it very seriously, but that's why we're so transparent with what it requires.
Okay, are the rest of these the scholarship ones, Tasia?
I think that's about the review process. So we are intending a decision by March 20th. So the deadline's February 17th. So we have about a month to review. We mentioned, yeah, I think we can skip the scholarships and then go to the next chart there. Yeah.
Okay. She did hit on the gifts already, the certificate, the cords, and then our item for each awardee. Application fee, we talked about that one. So extra recognition in years past. We did have the funds and the volunteers to organize a banquet. But as our number of applicants and accepted Honor Society members has grown exponentially, we are super proud of that, but we do not have the funds or the number of people needed to really plan that type of event that we would like to honor our students. So currently this year, and until further notice, we are not able to provide an awards banquet for our honorees. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so I was gonna say, just wanted to note up there on the reviewers, we do take volunteer reviewers, and we'd love to have you. So you can just email that oc@oklahoma-oc.org. If you're interested in being a reviewer, I think Leslie's also going to send out a solicitation form too, like on our email and on our social media. So I think that if you're a nominator and you're still kind of mystified by the process, it helps to see it from that side.
Yes, and I think it's also, for me as a Native educator, it's very encouraging to read all the amazing things that our Native students are doing. So it kind of, I don't know, restores my hope too, that they're still out there doing great things. Thank you for that catch. Let's see. Extra recognition. So as she's already said, you do receive a copy of the review application, and then we will send out the notice of those who are accepted. If, as she's already mentioned, if at some point you realize that something was missed, a document, or we didn't elaborate enough on an answer, or you left something blank, if that is caught within the application window, we can update that application, or we can remove it and allow you to apply again. But we do need to know before the close of the application date. That is very important. In years past, we would try to look through there just to make sure everything had time. But as it's so late in the window right now, I don't know that we'll have time to catch those that have been submitted so far. Did you go over the save function, Tasia?
Not in detail. I did not.
Okay, so if a student or family is self-nominating and they need to come back to the email at a later, or the application at a later time, they can hit the save function. It will email them whatever email they entered. That is the key part. Whatever email they entered in the application, it will send a save link to them. I have had some student emails it delivered back to us, whether that was the tech requirements of the school district that did not allow an outside organization to email, or they entered the email wrong, but they were districts who we are familiar with. So I just sent that save link to one of the previous nominators and asked them to send it on to the student. But it's really important that whatever email that they enter in the beginning of the application is accurate, and that they're able to receive from our email server. Okay, I think that's the all document, Tasia.
Thank you. And I've been trying to answer the questions in the chat. So I was just replying, Karen, but it's an application fee that's non-refundable. So if a student is not selected, we're not able to refund that. So that's why we try to be really transparent about all of the qualifications that are required. So hopefully, we know that beforehand if the student qualifies, if they've got that grade point average and have those cultural and service activities. Are there any other questions about Honor Society before we go into the scholarships? Think of something, please jump in. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going back to this page, our website, so oklahoma-oc.org. And then I'm going up here to scholarships. And there are 3 scholarship opportunities. The qualifications for those. I forgot this one. Just do those. So they're listed here on this Honor Society page right now. These 3, there are 3 scholarship opportunities. There are high school seniors only. And that is the John Sam Memorial Scholarship. The Alice Tonma Memorial Scholarship is for education majors, and that could be high school senior or undergraduate college students. And then there's the Marlene LeClaire Helen Wright Scholarship, and that's for high school seniors and undergraduate college students. So the Marlene LeClaire Helen Wright is the broadest. Then you have the John Sam that's for high school seniors only, and then you have the Alice Tonma Memorial, who is for either seniors or undergrad students, but they must be education majors. And you'll notice that none of these graduate students are not eligible for any of this. So to apply, you go through the scholarships and you would select which one you want to do. So let me do, and I select the Alice Tonma. Okay. And so it's going to try to ask questions that lead out students who are, don't meet those qualifications. I do want to note, I'm going to make sure that this is added to the website. But students must be inducted into the Honor Society to be eligible for the scholarship. So that's one of the first things the reviewers are going to look at. Did they get selected for Honor Society? So they do need to have applied for Honor Society this year, and then they need to meet those qualifications. So that means that anyone applying for these scholarships must have a 3.9, and everything is applied for Honor Society because they've already been inducted. So the reviewer is going to look, were they selected for Honor Society this year? Yes, they were. Okay. Then, Alice Tonma, you select you're not majoring in education, it's going to stop you, but selecting yes. And then you'll notice that this is really similar to what we saw on Honor Society. Some general information, tribal affiliation. We ask for these things because they are separate reviewers that review the scholarships specifically, and those are reviewed by 3 different people. The scores are totaled. That's how we rank them. That's how we select our scholarship recipients. So we ask for some additional information because the folks who review those may not be the same people in Honor Society, so that all information is all one place. They would put they could put the same thing that they put on the other application. Although for this, and you'll see that there is an essay portion, this really should be the students applying, not the nominator. This also requires a statement of intent. So in 200 to 500 words, we're asking them to describe their intended college, their field of study, their future plans, and what influenced your choices. And so they are, they're going to type that in here or in another document and copy paste it over here. And then they need a recommendation letter. That could be from staff, school staff, Title VI, SHOM, tribal leadership, community leader. It shouldn't be a family member, but it could be pretty much anyone else for a recommendation letter. And they would put, that here. We do not have a mechanism with this platform where, the recommender would get a separate private link or something like that. So typically what students have done is somebody writes that recommendation letter on letterhead and then it gets jobs here. They'd be interested in learning about employment opportunities within the field of education. And then they sign here. Oh, that's cool. It's fancier than the other one. And so that's really, it is the same thing for each of the scholarship applications. Just the criteria is a little different. So if a student was a high school senior who was planning to major in education, they could technically be eligible to apply for all 3 scholarships and could. And we have students who have. And so they would, we would likely not select the same student for all three, but they could certainly be in the running for all three if they met, if they were someone who happened to meet all of those criteria. And the reason for the qualifications are that's, the people who originally donated the funding that started these scholarships after this criteria. So I'm going to stop. There's no fee associated with the scholarships. Students have already applied for Honor Society, so this is separate. We do fundraise for these scholarships. Let's stop share and look at some of these. So we have recorded this session. We plan to send this out to the listserv we have from nominators in the past, and maybe we'll see if we can probably have to put it on a Google Drive. It's going to be a longer recording, but we'll try to put that on social media even. If for some reason you are not on those lists and you would like a copy of this, if you'll email that oc@oklahoma-oc.org email, we can send you a copy of a recording to this webinar and the FAQ, answer any questions that way. So as we'll try to send it out, but if you happen to miss you, please just let us know and we'll make sure you get it. But that's all the information we wanted to share. Does anyone else have any other questions? Right. Well, thank you for your time. We hope to see lots of applications. We have over 1,000 students who are selected for Honor Society each year, which is incredible in our state. That means we have Indigenous students who are high achieving, who are participating in their tribes, who are participating in service leadership. That's amazing. So we want to continue to honor them. I don't want to say too much yet because we're working on it. So just in case something falls through, but we have some, I think, really fun gifts planned that our committee has been working on. So the students who are selected will get some kind of neat keepsake gifts. So, all right, Miigwech, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording, but stay on for a little bit. So if you have any questions, happy to address them there. Miigwech, and thank you.